Welcome to the Big Book Roundtable and the RICO 12 family of recovery resources targeted at people from all backgrounds, faiths, places, and who are dealing with addictions of all varieties, every manifestation of the disease of alcoholism. RICO 12 is a resource also for the loved ones of those who are walking that path of recovery in addiction. I'm Justin B. I'm a child of an all-powerful, perfectly loving God and a recovering addict living in the miraculous recovery that is promised one day at a time to those who practice these principles in all our affairs. And that's what I try to do imperfectly. I'm joined by David G. and Nikki M., and I'm grateful to have them around this virtual roundtable with me. David, why don't you take a minute, introduce yourself, and then we'll get over to Nikki.
Absolutely. Thank you, Justin, for your service. Nikki, always good to be with you anywhere, especially here. I'm David Green. I'm an alcoholic addict of many sorts, living in Oklahoma in the USA. I've been given the gift of recovery since August 8th of 1994, and it's good to be here today. Thank you.
It's good to have you here, David. And Nikki, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Nikki M., and I'm in the Great White North, known as Toronto, Canada. Although the snow has melted and there's birds, and my friends, the squirrels, have popped out to visit me in the hot tub this morning. So I'm real free today. I'm grateful to be at this table, seeing both of your faces. Last time we didn't have the cameras on. David was recuperating from a surgery and still is, and I'm just so grateful that God's placed His hands on the whole team who's taking care of David. That includes his wife.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. And I'm just grateful to be here from the other end of the Great White North, but not in Canada. I'm south of the Great White North border in Spokane, Washington, but only about an hour and a half south. So I'm up here also. But the three of us in this virtual triangle of locations and around this virtual circle of a round table are diving into the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous line by line and sharing experience, strength, and hope, a little bit of history maybe in some of the areas that we're talking about, and just the way we hear and read and apply these principles that we learn in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Today, we're going to continue our journey through Chapter 8, which is entitled To Wives, and we will start on the bottom of page 109 and just reading one paragraph up through the top of page 110. So grab your big books, highlighters, pen, paper, take notes, and most importantly, you learn, most importantly, put it into action. If I don't put it into action, it's not going to do me any good. All right, here we go. We're going to start off at the bottom, the paragraph that starts with the word 3, and we're talking about the problem with which you struggle usually falls within one of 4 categories, and we're going to be hitting category 3 today. Here we go. 3, this husband has gone much further than husband number 2, though once, like number 2, he became worse. His friends have slipped away, his home is a near wreck, and he cannot hold a position. Maybe the doctor has been called in, and the weary round of sanitariums and hospitals has begun. He admits he cannot drink like other people, but does not see why. He clings to the notion that he will yet find a way to do so. He may have come to the point where he desperately wants to stop but cannot. His case presents additional questions which we shall try to answer for you. You can be quite hopeful of a situation like this. All right, that was that one paragraph. Let's jump into it. David, why don't we talk about this third category that we're going over here?
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. And if you've been with us for a while or if you're just now joining, welcome. And just remember that the chapter to the wives is really, the wives are as bound to the alcoholic and the addict as the alcoholic and the addict is bound to drugs. So if you can look at it, it's a chapter to the unhealed codependents. It's the chapter to the untreated Al-Anons. We see as we read through this chapter that I can't leave alcohol alone. They can't leave the alcoholic alone. I can't leave drugs alone. They can't leave the addict alone. The very things that I do to save my life, to drink and drug and do the other things I do, is the very same things that they do. So this begins to show us why that they are powerless over alcohol. We look at their symptoms all through this chapter. And, we've looked at one of 4. When we looked at number 1, this guy he's absolutely not an alcoholic. He doesn't say anything that makes us think any different. In fact, whenever I read through about him, I can see exactly that really there's not a whole lot wrong with him. But when we get to the other three guys, we start to look at a different level of hopelessness. We start to look at number two and his lack of control, unable to stay on the water wagon. That's a symptom of the obsession to the mind. Even when he wants to, he gets entirely out of hand when he's drinking. That's because of the physical allergy. Anytime I put it in my body, I never know when that's going to stop. I get entirely out of hand when I'm drinking because of my allergy that is submitting me. And so we're seeing that this guy is in real trouble. And as you read on through that on number two, you begin to see, he's remorseful after he drank his drinking bouts. He tells you he wants to stop. He wants to get over the spree. He'll try to do it moderately next time, And the book says we think this person is in real danger, and these are the earmarks. And, what are earmarks? It's the loss of control, the inability to stay, stop, regardless of the consequences. I don't know if I passed through the stage or not, but I can tell you because I am an alcoholic. And once I put alcohol in my body, I am the craziest man you ever met. Take it out of my body, and I'm even a crazier man than you ever met. I mean, I will literally kill somebody and have done that. And so, I think the earmarks of a real alcoholic was on me from the early days of my drinking. I go to meetings with people that say I was born an alcoholic, but when I read page 53 of the book, it doesn't tell me that. It tells me something different. In fact, why don't we just pop over there for a quick second and take a look at that? And on page 53, middle of the page, it says this: when we became alcoholics. See, it doesn't say since I was born an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic because I was born that way. It says I became that way because I'm crushed by self-imposed crisis, little s. See, I didn't impose that crisis upon myself. That condition of mind imposed that crisis upon me, and I could not evade it. I couldn't run from it. I couldn't hide from it. And so, I became alcoholic. Alcohol is not my problem. It's the solution to my problems. When I'm suffering from depression or anger or fear or the things that cause me to act in very ugly ways, you can feed me a little alcohol and that will settle me down. I hated going to jail because I knew I couldn't drink in there. But when you go to prison, it's better, y'all, because I don't have to go look for the man. He lives with me. And, we learn how to make liquor there. And so it's just the craziness and the insanity of that. So, but we're dealing with number three today. And this dude, he is absolutely the alcoholic. And what has changed between number three and number four versus number two? The level of hopelessness. And we're going to begin to see that as we start reading through there, And so number three, he's gone. Pay attention to these two words, much further than number two. Now, number two is going to catch up to him if he continues to come along. We've seen that in the book, and I see that through my own experience. See, it says this man was once like number two, but he became worse. And the illness will always get worse, never better. I can promise you. His friends have slipped away. Now, you see, that's the opposite of number two on page 109. If you flip back there just a second and you look at number two in the middle of the page and you drop down probably 6-7 sentences, it says this word, maybe he's beginning to lose his friends. But if you look at page 110, number three, his friends have already slipped away. Hell, they're gone. The home is a near wreck. He can't hold a position. Maybe the doctor has been called in. That worry round of sanitarium, jails, emergency rooms, rehab, sober living, hospitals. I've been in all of these places over and over and over. And, the things that I used to say that convinced me that I didn't have a problem was now slipping away. Well, I've got a job. I can't be an alcoholic. Well, at the top of this page, it says that's beginning to slip away. I've got a home. I can't be, well, that's near wreck. It's about gone. Well, I haven't been hospitalized over there. Well, the doctor's been called in now. The worry round of sanitariums. If you remember back on page 22 of the book, and if you run back there real quick, you'll see where we've seen this before in the book. Last paragraph at the last sentence in the paragraph of page 22 says this. Perhaps he goes to a doctor who gives him morphine or some sedative which to taper off, but then he begins to appear in hospitals and sanitariums. So, he clings to the notion, or no, I'm sorry, let me back up. He admits that he cannot drink like other people. And what is it that's in me that convinces me when I come into recovery that I cannot drink like another person? I cannot behave like another person. I cannot act out like another person. But that's the physical allergy, see, because once I put it in my body, I have no control over the amount that I take. And I absolutely, I'm nothing like other people in that respect. It says, but he doesn't see why. The illness is very cunning, it's very baffling, and it will begin to blind me. And look what it says. He clings to the notion that he'll yet find a way to do so. And if I'm suffering from a symptom like that, if your loved one is suffering from a symptom like that, I can promise you it's because of the obsession to the mind. He may have come to the point where he desperately wants to stop, but he cannot. He's progressed to the point to where stopping drinking sounds like a good idea, but I'm a hell of a long way from it. So, but his case presents additional questions, and we're going to see some of those questions as we move through this chapter. And it says we're going to try to answer them for you. But here's a great promise to end on. You can be quite hopeful of a situation like this. At this point, my cup is almost empty, and my real hope is in my hopelessness. So the more hopeless I feel, the better that I am. The more I suffer, the gift of desperation. I'm on the verge of getting sober here, and I don't even know it's happening to me. I mean, you could have asked the doctor, you could have asked the friends, you could have asked my wife, you could have asked anybody, and they're like, shit, he's too far gone. He's never coming back. And that was absolutely the case. But here I am, 31 and a half years later. Perfect by no means. Made a hell of a lot of mistakes through those years. But I can promise you that I'm a sober member today. I'm a recovered member of a hopeless state of mind. I live a good life. I'm practicing these principles. And I don't mind stepping to the podium and telling about my hopelessness and where it took me in a general way. Just because you got sober and you got some time, you come in and tell me a story, oh, how wonderful it's been over a 10-year period. You're probably full of shit because you're not telling me the truth. Sober is not good for a guy like me. It's just not. And we need to recover from a hopeless state of mind here. So, Justin, thanks for calling on me. It's good to share. I'm anxious to hear Nikki. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. And I really appreciated a lot of those insights you gave there. Nikki, let's hear what you got out of this paragraph as you go through it with us.
I just get so much, everybody. I'm grateful you're here. Stay. This is a real important project that we're doing, and send it to your sponsees and people you love because, like David, sobriety is not enough for me. Just abstaining from things is never enough for me. I'll kill myself. So here it is. 3. This human, this woman, this man, this family member who suffers the family disease of alcoholism has gone much further than number 2. See, I love what it's up. I love how you recap too, David. Thank you. You're such a great teacher. Because highlighted in number 1, the world is full of people like number 1s. And then number 2s, there's a lot of people who want to stop doing whatever they're doing and just can't. And then there's a lot of people in the number 3 category who are not alcoholics. They're addicts of many sorts, and they're doing without picking up a drink. Okay, and what? Because this as we go through this, the big book repeats itself a lot. This is just page 30 repeated. Like the number 2 gets worse, never better. Page 30. We get worse, never better, sober. His friends, my friends, have slipped away. My line out says isolation, social anorexia. I want to stay home. I don't want to go out with my friends. They have husbands. I can't even find a date. I'm so discombobulated in the family disease of alcoholism that my alcoholistic life, Al-Anon's, ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics, is my only normal one, And so I'm a wreck. I can hold a position like my mom did for many years and I do for many years, but I'm not have any purpose. I'm just going to work to look at your husband so I can sleep with him on break time. Is anybody like me out there where you're just working and you're a tornado in the workplace? Because guess what? I'm sober. I'm not like my alcoholic parents. I'm not like the alcoholic I'm dating, but I'm a workaholic. Hey, isn't that, I can hold a position because all I want to do is work 18-hour days. Son, it's your 5th birthday. Don't worry. You'll have another one. I'll be there next year. This goes crazy for me. And then it says, maybe the doctor's called in. Oh, maybe I'm on vacations. Oh, that's right. I'm not from, I am Canadian born, but I was raised in Orange County, California for almost 20 years. And so I'm running around weary rounds of sanitarian hospitals. How about human aids? I'm using every human aid out there. Ladies, gentlemen, yo-yo diets, the gym. I'm moving. I'm having another baby. I got a pocket dog. I'm getting a kitty cat. Well, no, I didn't get a kitty cat. That's my daughter, the cat lady. And all these things are happening, right? And I can't differentiate the true from the false because my addict life is my only normal one, the doctor's opinion. Nikki admits, I'm not like other people. What's going on here? But I don't see why. That's a huge question for everybody. I'll never forget that, laying in my gym, crying, going, why is it not working? Why are you guys exercising and feeling better? Why are you guys getting on the pills and it's okay? Why are you guys taking vacations and you're coming back rejuvenated? Why are you guys having a baby and life is beginning over for you and I just want to die? That's the big question. Why? So I cling to the notion that I will find some way, the delusion that somehow, someday I can control, I can martyr, I can manage, I can manipulate, I can be page 60, the actor running the show, forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, all the people, do what I say. I look at what I'm doing for you. Page 61, right? But then I come to the point where I'm so desperate. I just want to die. And I'm too afraid to kill myself. Anybody out there like that? Is everybody out there like that? Because if you're like me, to the codependent, to the Al-Anon, to the ACAs, to the love addicts, to the people snorters, to anyone suffering the family disease of alcoholism, you want to stop your crazy thoughts. And you can't. You've tried every human aid and you don't know what's going on because you're not the alcoholic. You're not the drug addict. You're not the one who has the drug problem, the alcohol problem. What is going on? And yes, the additional questions. And I love that. My promises, David, are in pink. And I didn't put that in pink, but I just did now because I got my highlighter here. You can be quite hopeful of a situation. And in my line out just says, still hopeful. Still hopeful you can change from this point where you want to die and there's no way out, but there's still some hope here, still a bright light. That's what I got.
Thank you, Nikki, for going through that. All right. David, something you said right at the very beginning before we even got into the number 3 category was you said the spouse is as bound to the addict as the addict is to the drug. I would love to hear a little bit more about that in your experience and how what that looks like.
I just always love your questions, Justin. They go deep and they hit hard. And, hell, whenever you begin, you say, all right, I got a couple of questions. I start praying then, it's like, okay, God, help a brother out here. So, but man, that is a hell of a question because, the Al-Anon, the codependent, everything depends upon me being okay so that you'll be okay. And that's just not the truth. That's a lie. And it's the same way with me. You know, I have to have this drug. You don't understand, man. I'm going into DTs, man. I'm vomiting my guts out. You know, I'm holed up in a place, you know, and my wives would often tell me, just come, let me take care of you. You'll be okay. I promise you'll be okay. I can't live without you, David. You've got to be here. And that's the same way I felt about the drugs. That's the same way I felt about the alcohol. So when I look at this chapter in that respect, that they are as bound to the alcoholic as he is to the alcohol, then this whole chapter begins to take on a new experience, perspective for me, because it's just, I don't know if you've ever suffered from drug addiction or alcoholism or anything that you just feel like you cannot live without. I mean, if I don't have that, I'm going to die. I can remember waking up in the morning and shaking so hard until I could get a drink of whiskey, man. Sometimes it was just, my teeth would rattle. And I remember going into a detox and I'm telling them, you know what, David, we can probably get you down off of the heroin and the opioids and the other things. You know, we can flush you out of that pretty quick, but the alcohol, that's going to be the toughest one to get you off of there. And I didn't realize that. I thought you just quit drinking and everything's okay. No, shit, no. I mean, there's a lot of sickness. And think about that with the Al-Anon. Think about that with the S-Anon. That is not in recovery. Oh my God, I have to have you. Either I'm going to die. It's almost as if their teeth is rattling like mine was in detox. So, you know, as we read this, you really begin, well, hell, look at what we read, in the last couple of weeks on 105 there. I mean, look at the untreated Al-Anon. We have begged, we have been patient, we have struck out viciously, we have run away, we have been exerical. Hell, why not just leave? Because they are addicted to the alcoholic. And that's the same shit I do because I'm addicted to the drug. So for me, it's the same. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And Nikki, I'm actually going to continue on this line of discussion here that David just started with. Is I want to see what your take is on this. So the alcoholic needs to be separated from the alcohol. Maybe the Al-Anon needs to be separated from the alcoholic. But is that always the case? Can a marriage be saved? Is there hope? Can we find hope in a situation like this? Can a marriage, a relationship be saved, or does it need to be separated completely like the alcoholic needs to be separated from the alcohol?
It's a big question, and I'm glad because I can't stop crying as David was talking. Because I've been there. Like, I'm going to die if you don't get better. It is so painful because, David, you can go get alcohol. You can go call your dealer for heroin. I couldn't call someone to get him. I could not. That's kidnapping in my country. I'll go to jail. I'll go to jail. You can't just go and take somebody and change them. It's so painful. And I've recovered from that. That's why I know this pain. I heard it in David's voice, the compassion, because I don't think people understand. You can't, exactly, you can go get more food. You can't get another human, especially when that's your own personal brand of heroin. So there is hope. There is hope when you live in a 12-step program, because you guys were with me recently. You've been with me in my long distance relationship with Mr. Luxembourg. And I recently, oh God, COVID, all that good stuff. And I'll never forget when, we were going to separate. You guys have been on my journey. Can't wait till we're all reunited, all 6 of us at a dinner table. And he wouldn't speak to me. He says, it's done, Nikki. You left. You got angry. You left. You bought a ticket and we're gone 24 hours. I'm not going to deal with this. And he just wouldn't talk to me. And I couldn't get on a plane and go there. If I didn't have a 12-step program, I wouldn't be sitting here. But I showed up every week. I sponsored. I threw myself harder into helping other people. I followed the directions. So if you're out there and you're hopeless and you're listening, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with the other person. We read it here, and let me read it again. David took us to page 105, but I'm going to take us to 104, because I want to tell you again, there is no situation too difficult and no unhappiness too great to be overcome if you live here with us, because wow, it's a dark place to be when, I love what David said, when you're, and this is my takeaway, you can just go into it, when the alcoholic is bound to the alcohol, but we're bound to our alcoholic parents, praying they'll get better, or our children, or our lovers. It's not easy. So I can't leave here. I love you both so much. They're tears of happiness because I've recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind. If you die or you live, it doesn't matter. I'm still free, naked in my hot tub.
Thank you, Nikki, for wrapping that up with a laugh. I'm going to share a little bit from my perspective on this too. One day, and I was in recovery, working my recovery at this point, but it was, I think, fairly early into my recovery. So my wife had already been in the rooms 8 years plus at this point. As an anon, working her program. Because her alcoholic was a disaster, but she learned that it wasn't that my problem, she couldn't fix me, is what she learned. But one day we were just hanging out, and all of a sudden she turns to me and she goes, I have just realized that you are my addiction. I'm addicted to you. And me, I was like, sweet. I was super excited when she first said that. But now as I look back at this, I look at that and I'm like, okay, that was a painful realization for her, to realize that she couldn't survive without me. And I do, looking back at things now, things changed at that point. Things changed a lot of times, but that was another pivot point where she stepped back a little bit and said, okay, why is my dependence so much on him at this moment, even while I'm working my own recovery? So there is hope. I want to share that. My wife and I will be celebrating 30 years marriage this year. One day at a time, as long as she doesn't say I'm sick of you before then. But there's hope, and we're both living in the miracle of one day at a time recovery. All right, and that's my insight and my takeaway. So, David, why don't you give us your takeaway from our conversation today?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love your story. I love your journey, Nikki. I love what you said. The alcoholic, he can find another drink, but you can't find another human. I'd have to kind of disagree with that, because at times we find a way to get under, right? Instead of over. Yeah, you can find another alcoholic. Trust me, girl. Yeah. So, Justin, I love what you said, man, and I just want to expound on that a little bit. We'll be married how many? 30 plus years?
30 years this year.
If she doesn't say that's it, I'm done, she's not going to, and here's why. Let's go to 104. Let's look at the bottom the third paragraph. There's short paragraphs, but look at the third one. And it says, what they say will apply to nearly everyone, keyword here, bound by the ties of blood and affection to the alcoholic. So for those who are, this doesn't apply to those who says, you know what, I would never put up that shit out of a man. I'll be done. If he does that kind of crap again, I can promise you, or if he ever even did it once, he would be down the road and go. This isn't talking to them. This is talking to the person who is bound by ties to the blood and the affection of the alcoholic and the addict. That's why Patty didn't leave. That's why your wife didn't leave. That's why so many wives don't leave, because they're bound. They're bound by ties of blood and affection. So that's not always a bad promise in the book. That's a good one, I would think, because we were sick together. We got better together. We healed. And so my takeaway is don't give up. I know it's ugly, and I know sometimes it's hard, and I know sometimes you just have to for your own sake and for the children or whatever. But if you can stick it out, I promise you, the miracle of recovery, the man who he is displaying right now is not the man who he is. The man who he is a godly man. And once he has an experience as the result of the 12 steps as outlined in the big book, everything changes. Everything changes. I don't talk shit to people like I used to. I don't walk around looking for people looking at me one way to say, hey, you looked at me the wrong way. You do that again, I'm going to whip your ass. And, I just don't do that. Today, I'm gracious. I'm kind. I'm loving. I'm content. Do I put up with crap? No, but I don't have to, because I'm not out chasing after it. So I'm so grateful that I got a lady that was bound by the ties and the blood and the affection of to the alcoholics. So anyway, that's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for continuing to provide that hope and that insight. Nikki, what's a takeaway you have?
I just love you guys so much. I don't feel alone. Anybody out there listening, you're not alone. Like these are three people at a virtual roundtable in different parts of the world, and we're just here with a solution that really works for any human suffering on this planet. I love you guys.
Thank you, Nikki. Love you too. All right. So as we wrap up this episode of the Big Book Roundtable, I just invite each of you to take a real deep look at yourself, whether you're on the anon side, whether you're on the addicted side, and dive into this. And I just want to end with that promise. You can be quite hopeful of a situation like this. If you're in this situation, be hopeful. Turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand Him. Step 3, and do all of the things, practice the principles, and it'll work out. It'll work out. It may not work out as you think it will, but it'll work out, and it'll be worth it as your work is worth it also.